Hi, welcome back to Cat Things, and today we're going to talk about how to become a software engineer if you didn't study computer science. So let's get started right away. In this video, I want to focus on how you can become a software engineer if you didn't study computer science at school, you didn't take a degree, and also if you didn't attend the boot camp. So briefly, I want to cover the subject of boot camps. If you're not aware of what boot camps are, it's sort of like a study program that goes for 3 to 4 months, sometimes a bit shorter, sometimes a bit longer. They were mostly in person before, but now there's also a lot of online options that you can take that allow you to focus on studying skills that you would basically study as if you were at the university studying computer science. And usually boot camps would cover like language bases, and then you would also have a portfolio project that you work on, and you get some sort of certification. And depending on the boot camp, sometimes they also guarantee that you will get work, so they will match you with an employer. Bootcamp would be a fantastic option to take, and I would definitely recommend it if you can. But it is very expensive, and it's a known fact that it can be up to $20,000-$30,000 or to participate in a bootcamp. And in many cases, you also have to quit your work if you have a full-time job to be able to focus on bootcamp. On the other hand, as I said, you can have a guarantee of a full-time job. So that is on the subject of bootcamps. If you can do it, great. If you can't, I've got some tips for you. When you get started with software engineering, it can be really overwhelming because there is a back-end software engineering, there's front-end, there's full-stack front-end, there is JavaScript, Python, Java, and then there's HTML and CSS, and all these different languages, all these different parts that you can work on. So it's really overwhelming to kind of figure out what you want and where to get started. So my first tip is to create a study plan with the end goal in mind. So let's say you want to be a software engineer at Google, or you want to be a full stack developer in a specific company. So what I would do is I would go to their job description and I would see what they require, like knowing the data structures, knowing, let's say, JavaScript, knowing React. And I would list to myself all these skills. And then I would also go to a bootcamp descriptions, because you can find them online. You can find what people study at bootcamp. So let's say you would want to take a JavaScript bootcamp. I would go there and I would see all the skills that are covered there. So again, the data structures, JavaScript, basics, functions, parameters, everything. And I would again make a plan based on that, so based on the real job description, based on the real bootcamp, and I would draw the information that I need to know to be employed by that specific company. So once I had my study plan, what I did next was to focus on the basics, and that is to learn the language that I'm going to work most with. In my case, I did JavaScript, so that literally meant like learning JavaScript syntax, so how to write code in that language, as well as understanding the basic principles of coding, like what is the function, what is a parameter, what is a callback function, and things like that. How did I actually learn the basics of that language? Is through learning online programs and platforms. So some of them that I can name is Coursera, Treehouse, LinkedIn Learning. They all have courses like JavaScript basics, or say React basics, or Python basics, whatever you need. And my personal preferences, and obviously this is not sponsored or anything, for me what works the best was the Treehouse. If I'm not mistaken, it's under $100 a month that you can pay for it, and you can participate in, let's say, a full stack track or a software engineering track, and you can learn the basics of any language as well as take other different related courses. I liked personally Treehouse because it was in these sort of bite-sized video presented information, and you can follow along and create projects. And for me that was really digestible and really easy to work on, especially when you're really tired and busy and you have your full-time work on the side. Also, one thing to keep in mind is that if you work for a big company, they might already have corporate accounts for things like Coursera, LinkedIn, and other learning platforms, and you might be able to use them for free as well. So if you're working somewhere, check what options are available there for you, or maybe ask your HR or your boss if you have any like a budget for studying and learning and self-development, and you can invest that money towards your learning. So that's another tip. Okay, so once we have gotten through the language basics, the next thing is to start practicing. How do you actually start practicing coding? There's two parts to that. The first one, I'd recommend websites like Code Wars and HackerRank. HackerRank is a site where you can try to solve different mathematical problems through the whatever coding language that you're learning. I personally found HackerRank to be a little bit intimidating and difficult for a beginner. So I'd recommend to keep it for when you sort of advancing to the intermediate and higher level. But when you have just started, a fantastic free website you can use is Code Wars. I found this so useful in terms of how to learn mathematical and programming thinking, because usually you have a problem written out by words and then you translate it to the piece of code. So just thinking about how you can convert that information into a functional piece of code is so helpful to understand how whole software engineering works. So definitely check out Code Wars, and then when you're ready, HackerRank. Or maybe you will allow HackerRank from the beginning. I found it a bit more difficult. So feel free to experiment, and also I'm going to put all the resources that I used in the description box below so you can check them out. So the first part of practicing was solving these small, sizable problems and translating them in the code. The second part that I would recommend is to focus on your own project. So, for example, you can create a game like tic-tac-toe. So you could do that like in Python or JavaScript. The good thing about it is that was already created so many times, so you can easily find the answers on the internet. But you can also you can find instructions on how to do it. So it would give you create this function and then create another function and then plug them together or whatnot. So you can try to follow the instructions on your own, and then you can check the answers. And most of the time, these kind of resources are free because it's a very popular game, right? So you can get started with something like that. And once you figure out how to do that, you kind of get in the flow, you can make modification to that game. So let's say you can try to adjust the number of rows on tic-tac-toe or the number of columns and things like that. So you can bring your own twist to it, and it's going to allow you to independently practice the skills that you learned. And again, you can do all that for free because there's plenty of information on the internet. If I find something interesting, I'll link it in the box below. And another good thing about this is that it is going to give you something for your portfolio. And that's my last point, talking about becoming a software engineer on your own, is building your portfolio. I cannot stress how important it is. It is just like the most important thing. I've been working in hiring for some time, and I kid you not, the thing we look at most of the time is not where you study or where you went to the university. We'll look at what you can actually do. So if you have a portfolio, this is a huge win that is going to help you get hired into a software engineering job. So what can you actually put in your portfolio? Of course, the possibilities are limitless. Some of them could be like a game, like tic-tac-toe that I mentioned before, or you can build something like a simple calculator. Again, not very hard to do with Python or JavaScript. Or you can also build a personal website where you present your work and your skills. So these are some options you can get started with, but if you use Google, you'll probably find more suggestions and a lot of great options to include in your portfolio. One last thing that I want to mention is to start looking into software development tools, because these are very important. The first, and of course probably the most important, is to understand how to use GitHub, Git, and version control, and what all of these things are. So if you are not sure what I'm talking about right now, I would recommend Googling it. I'll add some resources in the box below. Hopefully they will get you started. But this is like in any company where you're going to work, people is going to use that. At least most companies, 99%, okay, 90% maybe, I don't know about every company, but this is very, very important. This is going to save you a huge amount of time when you actually get an interview for a company and you have to focus on a coding project and things like that, and you won't waste your time actually trying to figure out the tools and what it all does. Another one that is quite obvious one is to start looking in the coding editors. For example, VS Code would be a good option to start with. It's free, you can download it, play with it, see how it formats things, see what it does, see what you can build with it. Yeah, so I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and if you have any questions about getting started with software engineering, feel free to leave them below in the comment box, and I would love to answer them. I would love to help the way I can, and I would love to help you get started with your software engineering journey. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.